series presented by IEEE Ziauddin University Students Branch in collaboration with Basme BME. A little story, a little backstory before we start. So when we were planning for the IEEE Students Branch, we had a simple idea about what if we start a webinar series. Nothing fancy, just something meaningful, something that would bring real conversation into students' life, and something that would go beyond just textbook. And see, here we are, barely a month later, and we are already on our seventh episode. It's But guess what? Today's episode is not just another box to check. It's not just a regular webinar. It's a milestone. Because today we didn't just take the next mile, but we crossed borders and reached across continents. So for the first time ever, the next mile brings together Pakistan and Nigeria on the same screen for one powerful conversation, two countries and a shared goal, that is growth that extends beyond the classroom. So, in today's session, we are going to talk about something that most of us struggle with, and we barely discuss this thing, the skill that can literally make or break your career. Now, I'll give a pause right now here, and I want you to reply me what the session is going to be about. Anyone, any guesses? Enhancing communication, Koala? Yes, of course. A bit close, to make our communication better. Yes. So basically, today's session is all about professional communication, because let's be honest, we have all been there. That awkward moment on LinkedIn where we don't know how to message someone, or still the emails that are in our draft and has never been sent, or maybe just introducing ourselves and not knowing what to say without sounding weird. um, this is what the session is gonna about, and here we are to fix all of that. So we are going to talk about how to introduce yourself with confidence and clarity, how to manage professionals the right way, and how to build a personal brand using your voice and not just using somebody else's template. And the best part, we are learning all this from someone who has helped hundreds of students craft standout academic and career CVs, secure fully funded PhD admission successfully, and take major steps towards international opportunities. I welcome, uh, please welcome our guest who is joining us today from all the way from Nigeria to help students build their futures. Esther Ernest. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
We are so honored to have you here, and a very warm welcome from Pakistan.
Thank you so much, Wajia. Hope you're doing great too.
Thank you for asking. Yes. Guys, I want you all to know that Esther is a professional CV writer, LinkedIn optimizations expert, graduate school essay specialist, and a mentor to hundreds of students and graduates around the world. She has a background in economics and a track record of crafting 200 plus academic and career CVs. Esther has helped her clients secure fully funded PhD scholarships, land job placement, and step confidently into their dream programs, especially in the competitive world of international academia. And today she is here. She'll be helping us on how to communicate professionally, build impactful CV, and present ourselves with confidence. Now, without further ado, and I won't let you guys wait, let's dive into the session we have all been waiting for. Ma'am, the floor is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Just like she said, my name is Esther, and I am so delighted to be here speaking with you on this webinar today. Um, every young person around the world wants to be successful in their career field, and we all want to be seen. We all want to show our talents and our skills. And the world we're stepping into is very tough and very competitive, all right? It doesn't just reward what you know, It rewards how you show it. And in this kind of world, your degree alone doesn't speak for you. You need to have the ability to communicate clearly, respectfully, and confidentially, and this will take you further than you can really imagine. So, with this, I'm just going to say thank you for joining. I hope that by the end of the session, you would be able to communicate clearly and showcase your skills and talent. Before we proceed, I'm just going to say that if you have any questions, please feel free to drop it in the in-call messages or wave your hands, and we are going to take your questions immediately after the session. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. All right. Before I proceed to, present, I would like to ask a very simple question that the most of us know about, and I want this session to be very interactive. All right. So, what is communication to you? If you can give us your response, please just wave your hands and we'll have you speak to us. What do you think is communication? I know it's very simple, but I would like to hear your thoughts on what communication is. Okay, to deliver our message to someone efficiently. I think that's correct. To bridge our connection. Okay, bridge for connections. Okay, thank you, Kola. That's correct. Thank you for sharing. Any other person? All right, let's proceed. For me, I think, okay, communication is the process of sending, receiving, and understanding messages between people or systems. That is a brilliant definition to make our approach clear. Okay, we are all in the same line. Communication is just basically when you pass information from one person to another. It could be from talking, it could be from writing, it could be from texting, or just whatever. As long as the person you are saying something to, and as long as the person you are talking to understands what you are saying, that is just communication. It's as simple as that. Once the other person understands what you are saying, that is communication. But now today we are looking at professional communication. Now, when you add professional in front of the word communication, what happens? It becomes a certain type of communication, one that has intention, one that has respect, and one that has structure. Not maybe because you're trying to form or pretend, but because you're in a setting where it matters how people perceive you, or where how you speak can affect what happens next. That is where professional communication comes in place. It's a type of communication that has intentions, that has structure, that has respect. So I'm going to define professional communication in a very simple way that you can remember. Communication is simply the way you express yourself. I'm going to take that again. Professional communication is simply the way you express yourself. If you got that, let me see a thumbs up. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, when you express yourself, you are building trust. You're trying to make a good impression. You're trying to explain yourself clearly, or you're trying to move forward in your career. Let me just break this down a bit. When you are done with your classes for the day and you come out of class and your friend asks you, how was classes today? You can just say something like, the class was so stressful, oh, that lecturer refused to leave the hall. And your friend will understand because that is your everyday communication. But when it has to do with professional communication, when you're speaking to someone in a higher position, or your supervisor or your project manager, and or someone you don't know, you don't talk like that. You might just say the class session was intense, but I learned a lot. Do you get that? So professional communication is when you structure your words to because of the way you express yourself where you are. Are we together?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you so much. So some people think professional communication mostly happens in corporate offices, only people that wear tie, but that's not correct. If you are ever going to be applying for scholarships, or you are ever going to message someone on LinkedIn, or you're trying to network at a conference, or even sending a formal email to your lecturer, you are already on in a professional setting. So when you are faced with this kind of situations, you have to be professional. So your normal communication does not come off as normal communication again. You have to structure your thoughts, you have to structure your words before you send them out. Now the problem is nobody really teaches us these things. And that's why we are having this session today, to look at how we can communicate professionally. If you agree with me, let me see a thumbs up. All right, thank you so much. So let's just dive straight into our key points for today because of time, so we can meet up and also take your questions. I am just going to share my presentation with you right away. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. It's not in the presentation view, but we can see it.
Please, can you come again? I didn't get that. Please come back.
Can you put that into the presentation mode? Presentation view, I mean.
Can you see my screen?
I'm sorry. So let's just continue. We can see the screen.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are going to be looking at some of these key points. What we are going to be learning today, as just some of these key points that I've just listed here. The first one is why professional communication is a core career skill, especially in STEM. And the second one, we are going to be looking at some common communication mistakes we make, some that I have made, some that you have made, and we are going to see how to avoid them. And we're also going to be looking at how to introduce yourself with confidence and clarity. The fourth point is how to message professionals with intention in LinkedIn, in email, and wherever you are sending a message to a professional. We are going to look at how you can message them with intention. We are also
Ma'am,
going to,
sorry for interruption, but we cannot see your screen anymore.
okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, 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 it's visible now. Thank you.
Okay. So, like I was saying, we are going to be looking at some of these points. I was on the fifth already. You can see from the other list of points we have. We are going to be looking at how to follow up and stay memorable without being pushy. All right. I'm also going to be sharing some personal stories on how communication, you know, helped my career. And lastly, I'm going to be telling you some practical steps to start building a personal brand through your voice and presence. Okay. So if you're with me, let me see a thumbs up again. Thank you. So we'll move to our first point for today, which is why communication matters in STEM. All right. So our first point here says your knowledge needs a voice. Your knowledge needs a voice. No matter how brilliant your idea or research is, if you can't explain it, it may get ignored. Do you agree with me? Yeah, because I have seen situations where you were grouped in, maybe you were given a project of 5 people in a team, and during the writing of the research or writing of the project, you brought so much ideas. You see people bringing up so much ideas to that project, but they don't really know how to deliver this project. Now someone else from the team that has a good communication skill will come out on the day of delivery and deliver this project like they owned it. People stand up and give an applause for this particular presentation that has just been made. But the core idea of this project was from you. But because you don't know how to share your knowledge, you don't know how to deliver or communicate properly, you are just sidelined. Maybe they may try to find out who wrote this, who was the idea behind this project. That will be later in the that will not be immediate. All right. So when you are able to communicate your knowledge needs a voice. When you're able to communicate your skills or all the things you know, you have the ability to stand out in any position where you find yourself. I'm also going to be looking at the second point, which says communication helps you collaborate. In STEM, you work across teams, across departments, disciplines, or even countries. Now, clear communication makes teamwork easier. Companies today don't just want smart people. They want people that can express their ideas. They want people that can connect with other people and show leadership through their words. And this does not only happen in corporate world. When you're sending an email, when you're asking for an opportunity, communication is your real currency. So communication helps you to collaborate even in STEM. Do you agree with me? Thank you. So let me move to the third point that says STEM career requires presentation and persuasion. And this is very, very important. You will need to present your findings, you will need to pitch your ideas, you will need to defend your proposals, and that requires more than data, it requires delivery. I know some of you think that communication is not that deep, all right? We think that communication is not that deep. I have a technical skill and I will just have to improve on it. That's what some of us say. But I'd like to gently challenge that idea, challenge that thinking, especially for those of us in science, those of us in tech, those of us in engineering and medicine. Communication isn't just any skill, it is a core skill in STEM. So, in fact, the higher you go in STEM, the more your ability to explain, collaborate, present, and persuade becomes just as important as anything you're doing at the moment. So, you have to be able to persuade people to understand your technical skills. Do we get that? All right, thank you so much. So, our fourth point here says recruiters hire clarity, not just skills. Recruiters hire clarity, not just skills. Many qualified students get overlooked because they can't articulate their value during interviews or in their emails. And with this, I am just going to share a very short story of what happened to me in my early career days. I was working in a small company, in a small firm, and I was doing so well in my job. Somebody saw the kind of the value of the work I did and recommended me for a senior role. They asked me to send in my CV. I sent in my CV and I was called in for an interview. Remember, this was a role that was recommended. I had the chances of getting this job. But I didn't get the job because I didn't know how to own my voice. I didn't know how to sell myself. I didn't know how to explain with clarity what I do as at that time. And I didn't get the job at the end of the day. So recruiters want clarity, not just your skill. As much as you have the skill and you can do these things, you also need to be clear and tell them specifically, this is what I do and this is how I do it. Do you get me now? All right. So for the last point on why it is very important, why it is a core career skill, the higher you go, the more you will lead. And leadership is communication. Leadership is communication. Show me a good leader, and I will show you a good communicator. So if you're managing teams, you're guiding projects, you need to communicate clearly, confidently, and consistently. Communication skill is a very core career skill in STEM, because the more you grow in your skill, the more you will learn and the more you will lead, the more new opportunities comes to you. And once these opportunities come to you, you have to communicate clearly. Whether you are managing teams, you're managing projects, you have to be able to communicate with them. Communication is a bridge. All right. So that is why communication matters in STEM. It is a very core career skill. If you agree with me, let me see a thumbs up. Everyone. All right, so we are going to move on to our next point for today, which is common communication mistakes and how to avoid them. But before we go on to this, if you have any questions regarding the first, you can begin to drop them now on the income messages, and I'm going to look at them and go through them before the end of the session. All right. Thank you. So, our next point for our session today is some of the common communication mistakes we make and how we can avoid them. But a quick one, if you've ever sent someone hi, just a hi, let me see your hands up. I know it's something that we've done. Even me, I've done it previously. You want to connect with someone, but your first message is hi. Let me see your hands up. Come on. Yeah, so a lot of us have made these mistakes in the past. Perhaps we didn't know how to communicate properly. You're reaching out to someone that you need something from, or you're reaching out to a total stranger, or you're reaching out to a professor, and your first message is hi. Like, that is a mistake that should not repeat itself again after this lesson, after this session. Sending vague messages like hi with no context is not a good way to communicate. It's not a good way. There are so many smart students who keep wondering, why didn't they pick me? Why didn't they respond to my email? Why didn't that person I messaged on LinkedIn reply? Who would reply to such a message? I have someone that has sent me a message on LinkedIn. He sent me hi the first time, sent hi the second time. He has sent hi at least 15 times. And I am left wondering, am I supposed to figure out why they are reaching out? Am I supposed to guess? I don't have the time for that. And a lot of other people, when you reach out to them, they don't also have the time for that. So when you send someone a message that just says hi, nothing else, no name, no reason, no context, and the person looks at it, the person will most likely be confused and would not know what to respond. So a better way of saying that is just, you can say something like, hello, my name is Esther, and you go ahead to introduce yourself and why you are messaging them. This is not just for this is not just for your professors, this is not just for your friends, this is also for even people you want to have other kind of relationship with. When you're going into their inbox, go with intention. Don't just send hi. Even though communication builds over time, you can reach out to them and say, hello, my name is Esther and this is why I am reaching out. Of course, there must be an intention behind your message. Do we all get that? All right, thank you so much. So for the next point, another mistake we have to avoid is oversharing or sending long paragraphs at once. And that's another mistake, pouring everything into one paragraph. You see something like, dear Sir Oma, a miracle from Nigeria. I'm struggling to find a career path and life has been really hard. I've tried everything and I saw your profile and thought maybe you could help. That is oversharing. That is oversharing. It's too much. The intention may be good, but it's overwhelming. When someone you don't know yet, when you're reaching out to someone you don't know yet, you don't start with your whole life story. You just say what you need and give room for conversation. All right. So oversharing or dropping your life history in one message is not a good way to communicate. And I hope that after this session, if you have been making such a mistake, you would desist from doing such. All right. So the third point here is using overly casual dislike or slang, heavy language. This one is very common when you go on social media and people, like, if I have a friend on social media that posted something that we both understand in a different way, I could drop a silly comment, all right, and the owner of this post would understand because we are friends and we understand this particular post in a different way. But you, an entirely different person, like a stranger altogether, would come under that same post and say, and be using like overly casual comment. You just drop something that looks like what a friend would, and this person does not know you. They may find it offensive. And these are some of the mistakes some young people make. A lot of people make these mistakes, and it is wrong. We have to stop it. We have to stop it. Okay? So let me just, I'm trying to rush this. Writing messages like a CV or formal letter in a casual setting. Ah, that is not a good way to communicate. That is not a good way to communicate at all. Then the last point is following up too aggressively or too soon. Some people, they just sent a message last week, they got no reply, and their follow-up message is, I messaged you before, you didn't reply. Why? That is a very wrong way to communicate with someone, especially in the professional setting. It is very wrong. Please don't do that. If someone doesn't reply, it could be that they are busy or they traveled or they didn't see it. Following up shouldn't be rude. If you want to message someone, you can say something like, hello again, I'm checking up in my earlier message. I know you might be busy, but I'll still really appreciate your feedback when you can. And that's a good way to follow up. So avoid these mistakes. Avoid this mistake. Don't follow up too aggressively or too soon. And when I say too soon, I mean like maybe after 24 hours after you've sent a message, the person has not responded and you just follow up immediately. Some of us have so many messages to respond to. Like as a professional that I have, I know how many messages I will be meeting immediately after this session. And sometimes you may not be able to, reach out, but a follow-up can help the person remember that, oh, there was a previous message, let me check it out and give a response. So we have to avoid these common communication mistakes we make. So keep your messages short, clear, and structured. Leave room for conversation. Match the tone of the platform. If it's LinkedIn, if it's email, just know how do we communicate in this platform and respond accordingly and send your messages accordingly. And I know we are in the era of AI and people like using AI to, write their messages. Someone has reached out to me, wanted to make inquiries, and just the exact way the AI bot wrote the message, plus, all those other extras, he copied it like that and sent it to me. Please edit your messages. If you are communicating, I know you're trying to use some of these tools to increase the way you communicate. Please help yourself. Read those messages before you send them out. All right. So we're
Ma'am, we
going.
have a question. I'm sorry to interrupt. We have a question here in the chat box, and Irza is saying, how shall we keep a balance then, not to sound too casual or too formal, robotic? Can you give an example?
Okay, how shall we keep a balance then, not to sound too casual or too formal or robotic? Can you give an example? Yes, just like I was saying previously, if you're sending a message to someone, you have to be intentional. All right, what is the intent of this message, or what is the intent of my message to this person? Who is this person? If you're messaging a professor, or if you're messaging your supervisor, there is a way to balance it. Even if, let's say, you want to use AI bot because you want your English to sound posh, or you want your English, you don't want to make mistakes, you don't have to sound too casual, just like you said, or too formal. Just go straight to the point. I gave an example previously. Hold on. I gave an example previously, and just hold on, please. Okay, so if you're sending someone a message for the first time, you're going to start with your name. Hello, my name is Esther. Of course, your first message should be, you've already researched who this person is. If it's a professor, if it's someone you're meeting for networking purposes, or you're meeting to pitch your idea, you've already known who this person is, all right? So you can just say, hello, dear Mr. Samuel. Let's say the person's name is Samuel. My name is Esther, and I am a 300 level student of University of Lagos. All right, and I'm reaching out to you to find out if you can. Now your intent comes in. This is not too casual and this is not too formal. Do you understand that? Can good. So when you're reaching out, your intention matters. That is the first thing. Why are you reaching out to this person? That is the first thing you have to look out for. Okay, so I hope I can move to the next key point for today, right? Or anyone else has any question that we should look forward to? Okay, let's move on because we still have a lot and we are behind time. So we are going to be looking at how to introduce yourself with confidence and clarity. This one is a very tough one. It affected me a lot. And I know that some of us have missed out on opportunities because we didn't know how to introduce ourselves with confidence and clarity. So the first point I'm going to say is that introduce yourself like you mean it. Be intentional about who you are. Sometimes it's not just about your qualification, yeah. It's about how you show up in the first message. So when you want to introduce yourself, the first point is, who are you? You're going to briefly state your name, your current role, or your status. That is the first point when you want to introduce yourself. The first question is, who am I? You are going to ask yourself that, who am I? And you're going to answer that question. So that's the first way to introduce yourself. And the second one is, what are you about? What are you about? Share a concise summary of your interests or expertise, just like the excuse me please, just like the short intro I made. Who are you about? And why are you here? Why are you reaching out? The intent behind what why you're reaching out. How to introduce yourself. Now, this is how to introduce yourself. Hi, I am Esther. I am a 300 level economics student, and I am passionate about technology. I'm currently exploring internship position. I would like to know, and I would love to have your guidance. Okay, so this is how to introduce yourself. You first of all say who you are, what you are about, and why you are reaching out to the person. And And when you do that, it makes you sound like someone worth replying to. You don't just send hi, like we said previously, which are some of the common mistakes we make. You say hi, and then maybe the person will say hello. Then you go on to, if some people will not ask you, how are you? Or have you eaten? Or how was your day? Those are irrelevant. Go on to say who you are, what are you about, and why you are reaching out. That is a professional way of introducing yourself with confidence and clarity. Anyone have any question on this?
No, ma'am, we are good to proceed.
Okay. So our next point is messaging professionals with intention. It's just almost the same with what we just finished, but I'm just going to show you what to do when you want to message someone with intention. Maybe you're messaging a professor, you're messaging your supervisor, you're messaging your project manager. This is not just for the educational field as well only. It works in your career as well. So when you want to message any professional, you message them with intention, and we are going to look at some examples how or what to do. Now, the first point is introduce yourself clearly and briefly. Introduce yourself clearly and briefly, and we can also use our previous example for that. Hi, I'm Esther, I'm a 300 level student. Just clearly and briefly introduce who you are. Let them have a glimpse of who you are and what you do. All right, do we understand that? Okay, so our next point is be polite, respectful, and direct. When you want to send messages that get replies, you have to be polite, you have to be direct, and you have to ask yourself a question like, if someone sends me this message, would I know what the person wants, or would I respond? That way it guides you, it helps you to know what you should send, or if this message is good enough to send to someone. If you're sending a message to somebody, I'm going to repeat that, you have to ask yourself a little question. Will I respond to this message if somebody sends it to me? And would I know what this person wants through this message I'm sending? Like, if someone is sending this exact message to me, would I know immediately what this person wants through this message? That is how to message someone with intentions, with intentionality. You don't just say, "Hi there, can you help me?" You can't say, when you send a message like that, that message could most likely get ignored. Or, "Hello sir, please, I need your help." That is not a message with intention. If you're messaging professionals, it has to be direct, it has to be respectful, it has to be specific. You can say something like, "Hello, Mr. Samuel. Good day. My name is Esther, and I saw your post about graduate school applications. I'm preparing to apply next year, and I would love to ask if you can review my documents." You see how direct this is? Very brief and very intentional. "I want to apply next year, and I would like to know if you can help me review my documents." There's no way you would get ignored with that kind of message. So write messages that get replies when you are messaging people, professionals in your field. And okay, another point we have here is say why you're reaching out, and then keep it short and relevant. Even if you are, let's say you're sending emails to professors, you have let me give you a clear structure of what your email should look like. The first should be your subject line. That subject line is very important. I have a company has reached out to me previously that they needed to hire the services of a skilled person, and I made a social media post about it. And I said, if you are interested, send an email to the email below. I dropped my email on that post, and somebody sent me urgent as the subject. Somebody sent me urgent as a subject line, and also sent me interested. Like, the body of the message was just interested. And the subject line of that message was urgent. And I didn't sorry, I didn't know how to respond to such message. So when you want to send an email, this is a structure you should most likely use. Of course, you should have a subject line, which is very short and direct, and that greeting is very important. Like I said, do a little research about who you're reaching out to. Do a little research about them, about their background, about their names and what they do. So when you want to write your greetings, don't write "Dear Sir" or "Ma," "Dear Madam." You can say, "Hello, Miss Esther." "Hello, Professor." You add the name of the person. That is a proper way to send an email. And then for the body of the email, you can introduce yourself, state your reason why you're reaching out, and of course, close it with an appreciation. Appreciate them, thank you, and in anticipation of a favorable response. You appreciate them for reading your message, because nobody really owes you any of that. Do you understand? So, what to avoid? We've already talked about this, sending just hi or writing overly message. You need to avoid all of that. It's not really necessary. All right. So, that is just how to message a professional with intentions, with intention to connect, with intention to get to know more about them, to seek their guidance, to seek their consent, or just anything. Do we get that?
Yeah, ma'am, we have a question in the chat box, and Tanya is saying, when is the right time to follow up after a networking email or opportunity, and what's a polite way to do that?
Okay, hello Dania. That's what we are going to be looking at in the next key point. So just follow up and you're going to get your responses. So let's not just rush it. That's what we have for the next key point. So just follow up and I'm going to be explaining that here. Okay? So our next key point is following up without being pushy. Following up without being pushy. And that's what we are going to be looking at now. Our first point here is I'm trying to tell you what to do, which is your question that you just asked now. When is the right time to follow up after networking email or opportunity? The right time to do it is 4 or 5 days after. Yes, 4 or 5 days after. Don't follow up immediately. That's not the right thing to do. Don't follow up immediately. There's no shame in following up. The key to do it is doing it without guilt tripping or begging. Don't say something like, why haven't you replied? You can just say something like, hello again, I'm just checking in on my earlier message and I completely understand if you're busy. But I'll still be grateful for your thoughts whenever you are available. That is the polite way to do it. Do you get me, Dania? Thank you. So you have to wait for a few days before doing a follow up after sending an email or sending a message to someone that you want to connect with, maybe someone that is above you in the professional field. You have to send a follow up maybe a few days after. And then another point here says keep your follow up short and polite. You see how short that was? I'm just checking up. I'm just checking in on my earlier message and I completely understand if you're busy, you know. So just make it very short, keep it kind, and don't follow up 24 hours later, please. Just leave it like 4 to 5 days um later, and show appreciation for their time and gently restate your request or message. Yes, you can even highlight your previous message and gently tell them again why you reached out previously, so it will be easy for them to understand that this is why this person reached out previously. Do you get that? Okay. So the thing is, you don't need to become a different person to be a professional. I know all of these things just sounds like it's one kind of big work. That's not it. You just need to give your words a little structure, your tone a little care, and your intention a little polish. Just polish it a bit, and that's how people will begin to take you seriously. Not because you're shouting or you want to shout. Just make sense and make impact. That's how you communicate professionally. Do we get that? All right, so we just have two more points to go. Any questions before I move to the next?
Ma'am, we have this another question, and Isma. is asking how to keep my tone professional when I'm filing a complaint or I'm pointing out somebody's shortcoming. She's asking in terms of criticism.
Okay, in terms of criticism, let's say someone has done something that doesn't sit right with you, and you just want to sound professional when you're filing a complaint. Is that correct? Thank you. So that is where structuring comes in. You can actually criticize someone's shortcoming in a very structured way. Do you get that? So you structure your words, you structure the way you talk, or if it's a message you are sending, you structure the way you sound in that message so the person does not feel too bad of themselves. And of course, the intention of this message now is to let them know that what they did was wrong or doesn't sit right with you. So that intention must be clear and structured. Do you get that, Isma? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, let me just share a few stories before I'm going to put you through how to build your personal brand. Um, I'm going to just share a personal story. Like this is a very recent story. Some 3 months ago, I think I a few months ago I made a very difficult decision. I relocated very far from my workplace, and the daily commute was becoming so draining and um, um, financially disturbing on me. So I resigned from my job. I decided to take a full month off. I just wanted to rest, just take the time to replan and reset everything for myself before I know what to do next for my life. 28 days later, I was returning from an event, and someone I had networked in that event just casually offered to give me a ride. So while we were on our way, we got talking in the car, and he just asked me, "What do you do?" It was a casual conversation, so I wasn't really expecting anything. I just responded very casually. Not informal though, but I wasn't trying to pitch myself either. I just spoke from my heart. I started describing my work, the jobs I've done, and the kind of clients I serve. And he leaned in and said, "Tell me more." He was so impressed. Before I left that car that day, he offered me a role as an educational travel consultant with like 3 times of the previous salary I had. This was not because I was trying to be very professional. I just communicated my value casually without even knowing I was being interviewed. And that moment taught me something. Opportunities don't always come to you. All right. Sometimes. Hello, can anyone hear me?
Yeah, ma'am, you're audible now.
Okay, thank you. So, like I was saying before, sometimes you don't find opportunities. Opportunities find your voice. So, when you have an opportunity to introduce yourself, just like me, I never knew that was an opportunity that was going to like give me a job instantly. But because I knew how to introduce myself, I just sold value without knowing it. And that is why this session is very important for every one of us that joined. You have to learn how to communicate properly, whether in a casual, and that's why I said it doesn't matter if it's someone you know or someone you don't know. Like this person, I don't know the person from anywhere. I wouldn't even have known that he had a travel agency, but I just communicated my value, the things I do, the job I do, and the people I've helped. And I just got a job without interview. I didn't send my CV, I just got a job there at the spot. So communication has a lot of role to play in our daily life. We have to be very intentional about communication. So the last let me just quickly take the last key points for today, because I know some of us we have other activities that we are going to be attending to. And we are looking at practical steps to start building your personal brand through your voice and your presence. All right. So we are going to be looking at some practical steps. And our first point is speak with clarity and confidence. Your personal brand is not a logo per se, it's not a business page, it's not a slogan, it's just simply what people associate with your name. Yesterday, somebody on social media posted and said, please, I'm trying to reach out to short Esther, and I don't know who this person, I don't know her name on social media. And people started tagging a certain person. It wasn't me though. People started tagging a certain person on that poll and that on that page. And I was wondering, this person's name is not actually Esther. What did this person do to people now start recognizing her as short Esther? It is because of their voice. What comes to their mind? What comes to people's mind when they hear your name? What comes to people's mind when they see something that looks like what you can do? And whether you like it or not, you're already building one through how you talk, through how you show up, and how you make people feel when they interact with you. So speak like not someone that knows where you're going. Speak with clarity and conciseness. When you introduce yourself, share your opinion, or you are asking a question, don't water yourself down. Don't shrink. Don't start with, I'm not really sure, or maybe this is stupid. But start practicing how to speak from a place of clarity. Even if you're still learning, speak as someone that is willing to grow and contribute, because people would always remember voices that sound like they believe in something, even if it's just in themselves. So you have to learn how to speak with clarity and confidence. I know someone may ask me now, how do I learn? You can start recording yourself every day. Take your phone, keep it, and start recording. And just do a brief introduction of yourself every day. That's you learning. When you're done with that, you can replay it, and when you replay that recording, you will hear some of the mistakes you make, and then tomorrow you do another one. Before you know it, you are able to pitch yourself out there. All right. So another point we sorry, excuse me, another point we have here is show up intentionally. Whether it's online or offline, be intentional about how you show up. Let your presence say what you stand for. You don't have to come online and say, oh, I'm building my brand though. You just have to start showing up in ways that are intentional and consistent. So you have to start posting. If you your presence is not just about how often you post, or how, the kind of content you post. It's about how you consistently leave an impression of someone who is serious about what they are doing. So you have to let your presence say what you stand for. Show up intentionally. Okay? And our third point here is add value. Add value. There is a lot of noise going on social media, or even in the offline space. Wherever you are, add value. Use your words to shape what you're known for. Start becoming more aware of how you talk about yourself, the way you introduce yourself, the way you sign your emails, the tone you use in meetings. Start becoming more aware of these little things, because these are the things that build you up. And over time, they shape how people describe you when you're not there. And that's branding. So add value. When I started posting, I would just go straight to say, oh, and this is how I can help you today. This is the kind of thing I can do for you. But over time, I realized that I needed to add value too. So I started posting insights. I started posting tips, helpful tips that can help you get your desired scholarship or desired professor that you need. So I started adding value instead of just talking about me all the time. Sometimes it's good to just begin to add value to your brand, or to that personality you're building, that personality you want people to see. Okay? And let your words reflect your goals. And this is very important when you're making posts, when you're connecting with people outside, when you're discussing in a networking event. Let your words reflect your goals, what your goals are. And lastly, be consistent. Yes, I know a lot of us struggle with consistency. Even myself, I struggle with consistency. Thank God LinkedIn make it made it 3 posts a week. But be just try. I know someone that makes at least 10 posts daily just to showcase themselves, just to build a personal brand. So be consistent with what you're doing, whether in the online space or in the offline space. Let people know you for something, and you'll be glad that you actually put yourself out there. So that's that for this session. If you have any question, please let's take it.
Thank you so much, Esther, for such an amazing session. Guys, we will now move forward into our question answer segment. If you haven't already, drop your questions in the chat box. This is your time to feel free to ask questions, and we'll answer it for you. Okay, so we have few questions in the chat box, and Kala is asking, how does the ability to comprehend impact the communication in professional settings?
Okay, how does the ability to comprehend impact? Okay, please come again, please. Can you take the question again?
I'm sorry.
Can you take the question again, please?
Yeah, so she's saying, how does the ability to comprehend impact the communication in professional setting? Maybe she means that how does the understanding about what others are saying affect the communication?
Okay, so comprehension is the foundation of all effective communication. So you have to be able to comprehend. That's why we said communication is in the dictionary is defined as a clear and respectful way of giving out information to the other person. So your ability to comprehend is very, very important. That's the foundation. You can't communicate well if you don't understand what is being said or what is being expected. So you have to understand the context of a conversation before you respond, and that's where listening comes in. You have to always practice listening and listen to what the person is saying, so you can comprehend the flow of the communication the person is trying to give in a professional setting. Does that answer your question?
Okay, ma'am. Danya has raised a hand. Danya, open up your mic if you have any question.
Hi Esther, I have a question. What are some underrated communication skills that students often overlook when preparing for job interviews or internship?
Please, can you take your question again?
Okay. What are some underrated communication skills that students often overlook when preparing for job interviews or internships?
Okay, some underrated communication skill. I know we listed a few. When you are preparing for internship, you need to learn listening. Okay, I've noticed this a lot of time that people don't listen before they respond. Okay, they are so focused on what they will say. You know, that anxiety that comes on you when you're going for interview, and you just, maybe you've already gotten some interview questions that you already had online, and you are expecting in that in that position that you're applying for. So you already prepare the responses in your head, and immediately they just start the first line. You did not even listen to know if the question went towards the direction that you learned that question, and you just begin to respond. Some people are mostly focused on what they'll say next. So listening is a very underrated skill that we don't look forward to when going for an interview. And we also need to learn how to pause or stay silent. That's another very underrated skill when you're going for interview. You need to know when to, stop talking. You need to know when to stay silent and just allow them. Not every kind of conversation needs a fast reply. Sometimes you can just calm down and think of what to say. So that is, and let me just add one more. You need to understand the room. You need to understand the room, like this place that you are, this internship, this company that have come. Being able to tell when to speak, when to switch your tone, or when to slow down is a very, very underrated communication skill that we don't pay attention to. And that's a very big communication flex that we should build on.
Very well explained. Ma'am, we have another question from Hamna. And Hamna is saying, considering Isma's question in person, what communication techniques can help students, communication techniques can help us sound respectful when filing a complaint with senior professionals? How might expression differ from online interaction?
How might how might what?
Expressions differ from online interaction.
Okay,
Talking about
that's
the facial expressions.
okay. What communication techniques can help us sound respectful, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Do I get that? Thank you. Okay, so one communication technique that can help us is, first of all, you need to learn how to be calm. You have to be calm, all right? And then start with appreciation. Even though you are upset, you need to first of all acknowledge the person's role, okay? Do you get that? So when you want to, sound respectful when filing a complaint, even if the person is your senior, you have to first of all appreciate them. Start, because that's why I said you have to structure your words. So you can just start by thanking them. Thank you for always being responsive to our concern. Okay, then you can now add um your pains, or the things that the person has been doing that you don't like. You can now add, you are always doing this and it's unfair. Do you get that? So it's the way you structure your complaints. That is how you are able to communicate. That's the communication skill we are talking about here. When you appreciate them, you cannot go on to talk about what they've done that doesn't sit right with you. And don't just focus on the problem, focus on the solution as well. When you're talking about the problem, also talk about what you think the person can do to be better. That way now your response is structured, and the person may not likely find it offensive. Do you get that?
Guys, do we have any more questions? Okay, thank you, Dania. Ma'am, I would like to take a moment and present a token of appreciation from Ziauddin University Students Branch. Thank you so much for such an amazing session.
Thank you too. I just want to say a little, can I say something, please?
Yeah, 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 sure.
So I want to say thank you for allowing me to be a part of your session today. And I want to say a very big thank you to Isma Mohammed. Her intentionality and resilience made this session happen for me. And I really appreciate the invitation she gave me. So, and I want to say something also. If you forget anything else I've said today, remember that your words will take you where your legs cannot. So structure your words and use them very well. I'm wishing everyone courage, clarity, and confidence in every room you step in. Thank you once again.
Thank you. We are honored, and the way you broke things down about professional communication really helped us, because these are the things we often ignore and or overthink. And today's session brought so much clarity. And definitely, I feel like I felt like talking to someone who truly understands from where the students are coming from. And I'm sure my audience would be thinking the same. We are genuinely grateful for your time and for being so kind and real with us. Thank you so much, Esther. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on our webinar series. And
Thank you
of
so much.
course, and of course, With that, a huge shout out to all of the one students who joined us today. We honestly cannot believe we have already completed the seventh session in the series, and it's all because of your energy, curiosity, and support. It's audience that keep us going. Your enthusiasm is what make a session worth planning, and each speaker excited to share. Guys, stay tuned because we are already working on bringing you another insightful and impactful session very soon. Till then, keep learning, keep growing, and thank you once again for being the part of the next mile.